This is my first time sharing my trip experience on the internet. I hope you guys enjoy the story. I got about 3/8 of shrooms and me and my two friends, Chris and Alex, divided it into three. We were sitting in my room and we ate an 8 each. We figured our trip would be more fun outdoors, although it was dark. We didn't feel anything for at least 30 minutes of walking. I thought it would be a good idea to go to this elementary school with a small self-spinning merry-go-round. So we jumped in and we sat down on it, and then we all started to feel the body high. It hit us. We weren't really feeling the place very much. It had a good environmental design, but it was very dark and we wouldn't have much to look at while we tripped. So we left, and as we were walking past the school, me and Alex started to feel the hallucinogens. The texture of stuff began to sharpen, and the leaves were quite aesthetically pleasing. So we were pretty much starting our trip at that point, but my stomach was not feeling good at all. Not that it's supposed to after taking shrooms, but this time it definitely was bugging the crap out of me. So we chose to walk to the local Wendy's across the block from where we were. As we arrived, the colours of the Wendy's building were very vivid and sharp. When I looked at the Wendy's logo girl, she was actually laughing. I was definitely starting to trip. After that, we found out that Wendy's was closed, so we ended up going through the parking lot to get to the other side of the block faster, and I could have sworn I saw the trees repeatedly falling to the ground, and the arrow instructing people to the exit of the parking lot was getting smaller and bigger, and the colour yellow kept changing to green and back to yellow. At this point, I thought I was starting to hit the peak of my trip, but I was wrong. So we walk down the block and I start having bad thoughts for some reason, and I know thoughts like that result in a bad trip. So I kept telling myself, I'm going to have fun, nothing's going to happen. But as we got to the next block, I was having difficulty breathing, so I started taking deep breaths. I tried to put myself in a good mood, but it wasn't happening. I told my friends I needed to sit because I was feeling incredibly sick. I felt like I had to puke. I even made the gestures of puking unintentionally. I began to really flip out. I was having a nervous breakdown, and I started to flip out for some reason. I remember repeatedly saying, "Guys, I'm really not all right. I need help." The walls on the side of the block were literally towering over me. I knew at this point I was definitely having a bad trip. I had that feeling of being the weakest person in the world. I felt so weak and inferior. I kept saying, "Guys, I need someone right now, I really do. I am tripping out. I'm not okay." Then I thought to myself, I'm ruining my friend's trip by being like this. So I gave myself another shot of standing up and walking, and tried to put myself in a positive mood. So we continued walking, and we passed by a family and I said hi. They replied with a hi back and took a look at me, and they knew I was completely out of my head. The father looked back and said, "Hey man, lay off the drinks, yeah." Then we kept walking, and I saw another family, and I said hi to them too, but they didn't reply, so I yelled louder, "Hi!" And they just gave me an awkward face, because I completely forgot I had the phone against my ear, trying to call a friend to help me. I tried calling him, but he didn't answer, so I continued to walk, and somehow, we ended up in the same spot where I was sitting and tripping out, and our little adventure didn't change my mood. So we sat down again. I started to flip out. Stuff became very dark, and the shadows of the trees began to look like they were overpowering me. I felt very weak. It made me realize how it would feel to be taken over by something, or how someone must feel to be weak. I really was having a horrid trip. We had nowhere to really go. I couldn't stand it in the streets, so I was like, "Dude, I need fucking help. I'm going home, and I'm going to get help." My friend Alex was like, "Okay, but you should try to pull it off and act like you're drunk or something." And I quickly reply with all seriousness, "No, they're going to know what happened. This is not right. I need help. They're going to know what the fuck is going down." At this point, I knew I was flipping balls. I was starting to really lose my proper way of thinking. When I got home, I opened the door and I walk in, and my mum immediately knew I was tripping or something. My eyes were wide open and dilated. She's like, "Are you okay, Joe?" And I replied, "Nope, I need to go in my room and sit down." So I went inside my room and she followed me and said, "What's going on?" And I simply reply, "Mom, I just ate some mushrooms and I'm tripping out." She was confused and replied, "What the fuck?" She turned to my friends like, "What on earth is going on with this kid?" Then she went and got me water and brought my dad. So they all sat down next to me and I'm starting to hit the ultimate peak of my experience. I really was starting to lose thought of reality. I couldn't even say a sentence or understand what was going on in the conversation with my parents and my friends. I was flipping out. I really couldn't understand anything. I felt mental and I was tripping out mad. I was taking a look around my room. My posters on my wall were rapidly moving up and down and side to side. The doorknob of the door kept moving as if someone was attempting to open the door. The flat-screen TV in my room kept bouncing on the counter in which it typically would stay. I was lying on my bed with my head slightly upward against the back of the bedstead. I had a serious trance mood in which I felt my eyes sinking into my head about 6 feet under, looking into 2 holes and seeing my friends and family talk as I tripped out. I couldn't understand anything anyone was saying, and it was really starting to freak me out. As time passed, I started to realize stuff again, and I began to see stuff actually kind of normal again. I got up and went to the bathroom to take a piss, and I started to trip out on the toilet. The water flushing down almost made me think I was sinking deep into the shallows of sewers. I pulled up my pants, took off the belt from my pants, and started to have the ability to talk again. Then I walked out of the bathroom. I sat down and my trip was starting to get better. I felt more relieved about things, and I was slowly coming back to reality at this point. I could think mildly straight, but was still on a small trip. As time passed, I felt normal again, and happy. I learned a lot about myself during this trip, although it went horribly bad. I had learned a lot about myself and others. I learned how it feels to be the weakest person in the world, and how it feels emotionally and physically. I also learned that I had good friends who would take care of me in a condition such as this one. I also learned about myself a little. I realized how demanding and strong I am about what I say about stuff, and during the trip, I felt weak, and it gave me a perspective of what kind of person I truly am. After this trip, I have a sense of appreciation for life and the good things there are to look forward to. I felt the sense of myself dying, and this gave me a simple idea of what death might feel like. It was a bad trip, but something good came out of it.